Hey, Executive Function Coaches. My name is Sean McCormick, and I am the host of the Executive Function Coaching Academy News. Today, we are going to be talking about how to take action on your big goals. So, one of the mistakes I see a lot of coaches make is they have these big dreams of running their own executive function coaching practice, but they don't know the tiny actions they can take on a daily basis to make that dream a reality. And so because they don't think that the tiny actions are meaningful enough, they end up waiting and saying, oh, I'll take action when I have 3 hours to set aside every day to work on my coaching practice. But the truth is, those 3 hours never come unless you get started today. So today I'm going to walk you through my process for having a big vision and breaking it down into tiny steps. So let's get started. Let me show you how we're going to look at this. I'm going to pull up the news here. And we're going to start with the idea here that clarity comes with action. So the TLDR, or too long didn't read here, is that when you can break down large goals into tiny steps, you gain clarity. And most people don't set goals, they set intentions. They say, I want to do better. I want to be a good coach. I want to be a good dad. I want to be whatever it is. But that's an intention. And you can start today by determining your one thing and champion proof. And I will break down the concept of champion proof with you here. But first, let's define what is action. So action is not an idea. Action is something that you can say, I did it. And what that looks like is, for example, I ask myself this, okay, if I want to work on my business today, I ask myself the question, how will I know when I've done it? And maybe it's making this video. Maybe it's posting something online. Maybe it's releasing an email, something like that. How will I know when I've done it? And if you cannot answer that question, then you're not taking action. It's not a general statement like, I'm going to do better, or I'm going to be really helpful. That is not an action. Now, why does action matter? Action empowers you to see the connection between your larger vision and your tiny actions. And this is something when I went around and I asked people I knew, I said, like, what should I talk about at Neurodiversion 2026 or 2025 last year? Some of my most respected colleagues, they said, Sean, you're really good at having a big vision, but taking small action on it. And so I want to break down my process for doing that today. But before we go into that, I want to walk you through the barriers to this, right? The mistakes that people make on this, because it's important to be aware. When we're aware of the mistakes and aware of the barriers, and sometimes those are mental things, limiting beliefs, then we can unpack those or create new liberating beliefs, is like what I like to call it. So let me jump over here. So I'm going to show you the mistakes that people commonly make here. So one of the common mistakes is setting intentions, not goals. Oops, and I should put it here. We set intentions, not goals. So an intention is something like, I want to be an amazing coach, or I want to have a thriving practice. What does that look like though in reality, right? Goals are specific things that we can say happened or didn't happen. And I will show you examples of those today. Second, we set goals too small. In our fear, we might often set goals too small. We might, feel like we're setting a goal, but really it's something too small. Like, I want to build my website. But really, you want to build your website because you want to be paid to work as an executive function coach. So if we set the goal too small, we can often get distracted. And so that's where we have to have the big vision. And then we have to constantly reevaluate, what is the most important tiny action I can take today so I don't get distracted by building my website, building all these other random things that don't actually move the needle forward towards that end vision of being paid to work directly with clients who I want to serve. Okay? Let's look at some other mistakes we might be making. We also might set the wrong goals, right? And I kind of just talked on that. We don't want to be setting the goal to build our website if the focus is, how do I get paying clients to work as an executive function coach? So before we go deeper into this, let me walk you through a few tools to help you get started. So I'm going to pull these up here. So first off, I have the Coaching Niche Toolkit. If you haven't done this, this is an $11 course. And in this course, I'm going to scroll down to what you get. You will know how to determine your niche, which is really key. The mistake a lot of new coaches make is they don't create a niche. They say, I'm the do everything coach for infants to elderly people, right? But that doesn't help you get clients because if you're the do everything, you're the do nothing coach. You're not an expert in anything. So that will help you set your niche. Number two, I'll show you my framework for running successful sessions. I call it the PEMDAS framework, the order of operations for coaching. Number 3, I'll teach you how to set your rates with confidence so that you know how much you need to earn in order to make this a viable business. I'll give you a sample contract and teach you how to find clients. So all that is there for you. If you want to take it a step further, you can join the school community and try the 90-day paid client course. And it is amazing to see the results and impact this is having on people. I continue to watch people go through this and just love to see them thriving. So check this out. So if I go over to the win section, we have people that are taking this program and getting real action, real results, and taking action. So shout out to Kimberly here. She's setting very actionable, clear goals, right? Updating my terms of service. This isn't have a business. This is hard, clear action. Updating my terms of service by clarifying my cancellation policy and late payments costs. Like, that's the stuff that pays to do. So I love to see people taking action after starting that course. And then if you are super serious in 2025 about being a successful executive function coach, check out my certification program. This will teach you everything I know about running a successful small business as an executive function coach. So that is there for you if you want to learn. Okay, now, before we go through the solutions, I want to share a couple wins from the community. There's been some really cool stuff happening. So Kimberly, and again, she's like a rock star. She wrote out her ideal week, and I just love to see coaches do this, because when you create your ideal week, what happens is you write down exactly how you want to spend your time. And there's something magical that happens when we write out what we want to do with our time. It plants it in what I call our nonverbal working memory, where we can actually see how our schedule wants to look. And if you want to do this on your own, you can go to the executivefunctioncoachingacademy.com, go to downloads under the Learn tab, and you can download my CEO dashboard template, which has this ideal week template. You can also just download the ideal week template. And one of the best things you can do for yourself as a visionary and small business owner is write out what your ideal week would look like. Like, how would you spend your time if you could spend your week exactly the way you wanted to? And I can say with absolute certainty, because I started doing this about 2 years ago, that my weeks are so much closer to my ideal week than they've ever been. Like, it has been a constant progression towards that. And just by writing it down like Kimberly did here, you are going to get so much closer to your vision, because you're going to clarify what it is that you actually want, how you want to spend your time. Another win here in the community is community members tapping into their one thing. So each week in the community, we post, what's your one thing this week, right? And just seeing what people are doing. Katrina meeting with her referral partners, building her business, right? Working through the 90-day paid client course. Love to see Ella staying on track with her business. Prioritizing client success. And we go through, how do we turn that into an actionable step here? Susan was talking about connecting with people to build her professional network. And great job, Susan, on sticking with that 90-day paid client course, building out your business. So lots of amazing stuff happening. Shout out to Tula for continuing to work through the 90-day challenge, coming to the live Q&A, getting that support. I love to see it. And then lastly, the other big win is Anna, over 2 years in the community. She has her second college student now. Her business is taking off. She's got lots of inquiry calls coming in, and just celebrating these wins with you, Anna. I'm so glad to see that your business is coming to fruition the way you envisioned it, and you are growing and joining the live Q&As. It's awesome to see how far you've come and the growth that you're experiencing. So just super happy for Anna. So let's jump back over into the solution now on how to take action. Okay. And so the first thing I highly recommend for people is define your purpose. And let me walk you through what I mean by this in terms of defining your purpose. So to define your purpose, you want to think about, who do you want to serve? How are you going to help them? And how are you going to show up for them each week, even before you have paid coaching clients? So 5 years ago, when I was leaving the classroom, I thought to myself, I know I can help people learn things that feel difficult. As a former public school special educator, I said, the best thing I can offer to this world is teaching people difficult things that feel overwhelming. And so I defined my purpose 5 or 6 years ago, where I said, I'm going to help people learn difficult things by breaking it down into small steps and teaching them. So I got clear on my purpose. And then I asked myself, what's the best way I can take action on this? So let's jump back over to the steps here, which is, once you define your purpose, then you want to think about the big objectives. Now, this is where you start to break down that purpose into 90-day visions, right? And so, for example, if with my goal that I was sharing, if I wanted to serve people as a coach, then I thought, okay, well, how do I put myself out there? What do I do in the next 90 days? And what I came up with was clarifying my value proposition, right? Who I help, how I help them, what I help them overcome, and what my coaching looks like. So that could be one 90-day goal you could break down into small steps. Another could be some type of outreach campaign. Like, hey, if I want to help people on this, who can I share this with that it'll be impactful for them to know about this, right? And so that's where you can break down, okay, I need to reach out to 10 neuropsychologists each day to get my message out there, right? So you take this large vision and you break it down into kind of bigger picture actionable steps that can be done in a 90-day period. And then you go even smaller. Then you ask yourself, okay, what's the one tiny thing I can do today in service of this goal that is connected to my long-term vision? So if your long-term vision is to coach students and leave the classroom and do that, then the 90-day vision is to have done 50 outreaches or something like that. And then you break it down in tiny steps. Okay, I can send one email today, right? And this is how it works. You do one thing each day. And if you go through a week and you do one thing each day, by the end of the week, you'll have done 5 things that are directly connected to your giant vision. I call it your BANG, your big, audacious, noble goal. But the thing is, the place people get trapped is they can't break down the action into something small they can do because they think it's not significant. But here's the thing. Something that you do for 2 minutes or less, could be 1 minute, maybe just posting something, putting yourself out there, whatever it is, that has a direct connection to your long-term goal. And the other really cool thing about this is that the domino effect happens. So when you take a tiny action that may feel a little insignificant, like maybe it's just opening up TutorBird and launching, like basically going through a free trial of TutorBird so you know how to bring in students and set up a sign-up form, whatever it is. If you do that, it unlocks this domino effect where taking that tiny action helps you see the next bigger action. And so you can start this kind of momentum, because momentum is way more important than having the best plan ever. Momentum helps us move, keep going, break through obstacles. Imagine that snowball coming down the hill. Nothing is stopping it, right? When it gets momentum. Okay, so the other thing is each week you have to engage in some type of self-reflective process. So after you've done those 5 things or 3 things that week, review your progress and make tweaks. So what worked, what didn't, what can I do next week? Kind of think in terms of weeks, right? It doesn't have to be every day because some days we get thrown off, but think in terms of weeks. Like what worked well this week, what didn't work so well, and what can I do next week to make it the most impactful week possible, even with the constraints of having, teaching, having kids, all the things in life. Even with those challenges and constraints on your time, what are the small things you can do? And so here I'd like to share you a quote that's been really inspiring to me on this topic, which is the following. So let me pop this over. If you don't prioritize, everything seems urgent and important. If you define the single most important task for each day, almost nothing seems urgent or important. Oftentimes, it's just a matter of letting bad things happen, returning a phone call late and apologizing, paying a small late fee, losing an unreasonable customer, etc., to get the big important things done. The answer to overwhelm is not spinning more plates or doing more. It's defining the few things that can really fundamentally change your business and life. So that's where it starts, is thinking about the few small things that can fundamentally change your life and doing them. And I know I'm just giving a lot of shout outs to Kimberly here, but she defined this so well when she said, I love dreaming up big ideas, and even though I am naturally detail-oriented, at times getting into the nitty-gritty can be a challenge. I'm seeing that this is where those big ideas really start to take shape. And that is 100% true, that the big ideas start to become realities when we take the tiny, tiny actions, right? To get to the next level, we have to exchange novelty for nuance. Do that boring stuff. Do it consistently. Keep doing it, and watch that J curve, right? At first, it looks like a dip, and then it grows. You can do that. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Before we end, I do want to share a little bit about the roadmap. So a couple of things that are in progress. Working on a book for coaches. We have also released the master articles. Shout out to Maya for helping with this. So if you go down to the mindset and identity, we have released this master guide on this, which includes the top articles I've written on this topic, as well as all the other key resources and articles on this. So if you want to jump into that mindset and identity section, it is there for you now. And then we are planning on adding in accountability sessions. We're still figuring out the details, but in addition, so I'll go over here. In addition to our calendar, which has the live Q&As with me, and I'll go to December. So we have 2 a month. I'm also planning on adding in some accountability sessions. So more details on that to come soon, hopefully in 2026. That can be in addition to the community. And then a couple things. As I shared, we published that master article. We now have a guide on how to find other coaches in the community. So if you're looking for peers that share your interest in the community, there's how to find peers with shared interests and focuses. That is in the community now. And shout out to Kay for that suggestion. Thank you. And then the 90-day paid client course is there. So if you are in the community, jump in, start taking this course. It guarantees you a paid client, not to be missed. All right, so that is all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining and listening to the EFCA news. I hope this was valuable to you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. I'll be taking Thanksgiving week off from the news, so we'll be sending out some of our top articles that week in place of it, and then I'll be back on the job the first week in December. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week.